Hey guys, welcome to the Tech Division, our generically named corner of YouTube. So we're going to build a computer today, and it's going to be made of this stuff. If this is your first time building a PC, then welcome. If you're a console gamer and you're angry about the PS4 or something like that, then also welcome. Today we will be building a computer. By no means is this a balanced system. This is just using random parts, just for purely demonstration purposes. So experienced builders can laugh at us or troll in the comments, go ahead. But we will actually be making future build videos with specific goals in mind, whether it be workstation, gaming, just a general cheap computer, stuff like that. So let's go ahead and do this. So CPU, solid state drive for our operating system, graphics card, motherboard, CPU cooler, power supply, storage drive, a bunch of fans, and some RAM. Oh, and of course, you know, we got some pretty stuff, make it look pretty as well, some cables and stuff. Oh, and of course a case around the back there. So enough with the parts, let's get on and build this. Swole. Alright guys, so what we want to do is just grab our case to start with. It's got nothing in it so far. As you can tell, this has been housing a computer before, so we've already used this case for something else. Yeah, a nice builder case. Pretty much any case you buy will have thumb screws, which are really easy. Sometimes they come and they're tight, and you might have to loosen them with a screwdriver first. Go ahead and take both sides off just to get it nice and open, and put them in a safe place so you don't step on them or anything like that, because they can, well, they're not that fragile, but they're pretty fragile. Inside the case, there'll be all these cables. They'll probably be tied up a bit nicer than that. What we want to do is just take them and get them out of the way. Big CPU hole cutout helps, like that. The fan filter down the bottom on, most cases will have that when you turn your power supply upside down, and it just draws nice air. Now what I'm pointing to there are just routing holes, so for your cables. The 300R doesn't come with those grommets standard. I actually got them separate, but that's the Corsair case, but if you have a nice case, they'll probably have some of them. And that's the hard drive cages, so that will house your drives, solid state drives, and your hard drives. Our radiator's going on the back there next to the IO shield, but a lot of people will have, if you do have a radiator, you'll have top mounted radiator or anything like that. We're going to talk about standoffs. The Corsair 300R, really nice case. It actually comes with built-in ATX standoffs. That's what those wrinkles in the steel are. And usually you'll have to put your standoffs in, but other than that, if you want to just grab your motherboard, put a piece of paper underneath it, draw some holes, and put your standoffs where you actually need them depending upon your motherboard. It's pretty easy, it just takes a bit of common sense, guys. Now guys, it will usually come with a plastic cover for the CPU socket. This is socket LGA 1150. Don't touch it on the underside of it, guys, because human oils are really bad for the thing. The Intel ones have pins actually on the CPU socket, not on the actual CPU like AMD. And you got to correspond the little golden arrow on the CPU to the little arrow on the actual board. Really important, guys. It will not, well, it might go in, but you're going to wreck your CPU. It is imperative that you get that right. There will be the little plastic shield, as I mentioned, will come on there. You want to pop that off, or you can put it on and then it will pop off as you put it on. With Intel CPUs, it's going to take a lot of force to close that latch, so just go ahead and close that. Don't be too worried, guys. Just another thing with the CPU, if you have an AMD, it will be a zero insertion force socket, so guys, it'll be a lot easier to pull that latch down. The pins will be on the CPU, just plop it in there, make sure the corners line up again. This is RAM. The RAM, if you're putting in dual channel, like 2 sticks of RAM. Your DIMM slots, the motherboard usually, if it doesn't have it on it, you'll check the manual. There's no harm in checking the manual. It will tell you which slots to populate first if you only have 2 sticks of RAM. On this particular board, it's the 2nd and the 4th slot. Make sure the groove corresponds to the little notch on the board, guys. You don't want it to force it to do anything it doesn't want to do. And some boards have only one latch, but this one doesn't. This particular board doesn't. You can just push both sides in at the same time, and it will just click in. With the one, you just slide it in, and then you just click down the other side. And the second one, let's throw it in there. Apply a bit of force. All good. Alright guys, by this time we'll have our motherboard standoffs installed. They'll look like, with the motherboard backplate, guys, just stick that in and make sure each corners click in correctly. Just make sure it's in there properly, guys, because the motherboard won't go in that nicely if it's not in properly. Grab your motherboard, guys, and just put it in there. Make sure you line up all the ports with the backplate I/O shield on the back. But in our case, because we already have these grooves in place, we just have some screws to screw in. So we're going to go ahead and install those screws. We're going to go ahead and skip ahead, guys. Sorry about my Parkinson's, guys. It's getting a bit shaky up in here. Had about 5 coffees by this stage, so. Alright guys, this is our small Intel fan. This comes with the CPU. This is the stock Intel fan, guys. It will look different for an AMD. It will have different latching mechanisms. The dimensions of it will be different. It'll have a different thermal mass. So the push pin style, guys, you want to get those little white threads. You want to get those little white nubs through the holes, and then push those pins down firmly, and it will widen the white thing, hence holding it onto your CPU. Instead of using that, guys, we're actually putting on a small closed H60 Corsair radiator. We've already put the fan on there, and this has just been going on our CPU instead of the Intel fan. It's a closed water cooling loop, guys. It's just, don't be afraid of these things. They're so strong, they will never leak or anything like that. And if they do, I'm sure Corsair will pay for everything it damages. And that's your water block, guys. That's going to go straight on the CPU. Backplates are important because with aftermarket coolers, they will a lot of the time need them. So they just go on depending upon what board you have, what socket type you have. That will be a different layout. Just go ahead and put that on, and there will be standoffs to screw in from the other side. God, that looks good. That PCB. Black. Yeah, it's nice. Alright guys, we've got that backplate on now. So the standoffs, they're pretty loose at the moment. If you have one that is by this design, don't be too worried, guys. They do firm up once you actually put the CPU water block on there, or whatever type of radiator you have there. I'm sorry, cooling CPU cooler. Guys, if you're gonna be using the stock Intel one, that's absolutely fine with lower end ones, but if you're not gonna do any overclocking with something like that. Moving on to thermal paste or thermal grease, whatever you want to call it. A lot of closed loop systems or CPU cooling devices will actually come with this pre-installed on there. So that's all good and well, but for the ones that don't, and if you're reapplying this to an old computer, you want to go ahead and buy some. Noctua NTH1 is great. It's really quite good. We do suggest, however, that you watch a separate video on installing a water block or an aftermarket part like this, and when you're using thermal paste, because it is quite important, guys. So we'll go ahead and put this on. The general rule with this, guys, is you install about an uncooked grain of rice on top of there. That seems to be the most decided upon. That's the most popular way of dispersing that. because obviously when you press down, apply a lot of pressure to that, it's gonna spread out and not have any air bubbles. We're gonna go ahead and put on our Corsair water block. So as you can see, guys, that looks pretty nice. Once that's all on there. Now make sure if you do have an aftermarket part like this, make sure you screw this down. If it is air, if it's water block like this, make sure you screw it down in a cross pattern to get that even dispersion, the even pressure over the CPU. You don't want it to be straining one side. Once that's installed, guys, you can either do it this way or the other way around, in which you will install the radiator first and or the fan, and then put the CPU on. It's basically down to preference, guys. Try not to rest anything on the motherboard and damage the motherboard, obviously. Ours is rear mounted, as you can tell, instead of top mounted. And the reason we didn't use put the fan on the back, a lot of PC builders will look at that and be like, well, you should use pull, and they'd probably be right, but the only reason we're using push is because we like the color of our fan there and we want that to be actually showing. And that's obviously where a top mounted radiator will go, or just a couple of fans. Now we're just going to go ahead and throw some extra fans in there. Whether or not your system will actually need these, it just depends on your system, guys. You might have a radiator up here, depending on your case. If you've got the fans with rubber grommets around them, when you're screwing them in, guys, they can be pretty tough to screw in, so don't be too alarmed if you're having a hard time screwing them in. Just use a bit of force. But the rubber grommets are good, guys. They'll stop the fan from rattling around and making noise and all that sort of jazz. You'll probably, in most ATX cases, and even some ITX and other different cases, they'll all have, you'd want to use them as intakes at the front, so they'll have fan mounts. You can see I'm having a bit of trouble there. My Parkinson's plus sweat. I don't actually have Parkinson's, so I'm just shaking naturally. Yeah. We put those on earlier, guys, so you can just take our word that we did the right job. They're actually 140s, more designed for airflow. They're great, those Corsair fans. You can see our front bezel has a nice air intake on the sides and on the front, and a nice fan filter. So fan filters are great, guys. They just stop that dust, and they should be easy to clean. You can take them out and just give them a wash or whatever.
Just like that.
And there'll be different mechanisms in which you get your front bezel off, or your fans off, or which your mounting problems. It'll depend on what you guys need. Now we're looking at mounting our power supply. This is a sort of a half modular power supply. So we've got our CPU power and our 24-pin motherboard power. That's already in there. And there's a PCIe and SATA power and stuff like that, guys. That's all modular, which is great. We only have to use the cables we need. You have two different options when you're mounting this power, guys. You can either mount it with the fan up or the fan down. Regardless, your sticker on the side will still look nice if you have a window or anything like that. The difference between the two being, one with the fan up, you'll be pulling air from the inside of your case and exhausting it out the back, which is a really nice option, but you will be cooling your power supply with hotter air, which some people don't like. Or when you flip it up the other way, you'll be taking clean air from the ground up into your power supply and out the back, and it'll be its own closed loop. The only situation with that, guys, is if you do have your computer on the ground and if there is carpet, it won't be getting much air. It might suffocate it a bit if it's under a big load or something like that, guys. And we are going to mount it that way because we know elevating your computer is always nice, and on a hard surface is good. And also we want to keep slightly positive air pressure inside our case. And you want your airflow basically to go through the front of the case or the bottom and run up and through to the back and the top, because obviously hot air rises. It's a lot easier to make air go that way. Go ahead and grab your 4 screws for your power supply and screw it in the back here. Sometimes they do have a shield in which you can install prior to doing this, and it will be removable, but ours isn't, and we can just go ahead and screw it in like so. See, our trays for our hard drives comes with SSD mounts and obviously the built-in hard drive compatibility, which is always nice. But when you get some SSDs, they will come with a nice little drive sled which you can install if your hard drive sled doesn't natively come with the SSD mounts. So we're going to go ahead and install ours as well, just because it looks nice. Yeah, it doesn't make much difference, guys, but we like the little Corsair logo, so yeah. Solid state drives, guys, they're really durable, obviously, so don't be too worried about when screwing those things in. You just throw that in there. Hard drives, they fit natively, well, so do SSDs, but just go ahead and click that in like any other hard drive. Shaking, freak, no. Alright, and you can just go ahead and slide that in. Pretty much have them anyway, guys. You can even mount SSDs like all over your case, just depending on what you want to do. Get rid of the drive cage, whatever. Put it on the put it on the back, sorry, put it on wherever. And they've got some nice airflow from those front fans across them. This would be the part in which we show you how to install an optical drive. But because we think optical drives are archaic and useless, we're actually not going to install one. With our Corsair case here, guys, we've got a toolless input method. Usually it'll just be a couple screws, but you just unclip that and unclip your front little bezel, your little protector thing there. There'll be different mechanisms depending on what case you have, and then you just come around the front and you just slide your optical drive in there. Screw it in, shut your toolless bay, do whatever. But as we say, optical drives are pretty useless these days. How often do you use yours, really? And you just plug them in like any normal drive. You just have your power and your data cable and plug them in. With your fans on your motherboard, guys, there'll be fan headers around. They just look like little 3 or 4 pins. CPU, guys, you want to stick that in the one that says CPU, basically. If you've got a bunch of fans, you might need fan splitters or fan controllers, but don't worry about that. Don't worry about that for now, guys. Look at that shot. It's a pro. Nice shot. It's a good shot.
Yeah, can't see shit though.
Yeah, it looks cool though.
It's just the motherboard though.
Alright, just click them in, just push them in. Obviously, they might have little square parts on them that will really help you. And put if you have a pump in a closed loop or anything like that, you want to just put that on a system fan header, and you'll find that somewhere on your motherboard, guys.
If you're feeling lost, you can just consult your guide.
Yeah, good point. If you guys feeling lost or anything, just hit up the manual. There's no harm in doing that, or shame. A little bit of shame. No shame. Again, with the cable routing, guys, we're just going to get rid of some of this crap while we're here, just so we don't have a huge mess at the end. We like to do a bit while we're going instead of, well, because we've got a cable extension, guys, we're going to go ahead and connect that through, and it's going to look all pretty. Well, hopefully. Red. It's like blood. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa. And don't try and force anything, guys, obviously. Just use a bit of common sense. There's a clip on the 24 pin, and you want to make sure that clip lines up there. So just go ahead and hit that up and click it in. CPU power, guys, just comes up around the back of your motherboard, so put it throughout a routing hole.
Usually it's easy to put in if you don't have any fans in there.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. See, we were retarded and put our fans in, so it made it very hard for us to plug our power in. So yeah, we're just confirming our retardedness in the video. Alright, taking a look at some of the front connectors, guys. That's USB 3 and that's HD audio. Audio will be down the bottom, guys. It's all HD audio. We don't even need to worry about the old connectors. USB 3, it's nice to have a right angle header there, so we're gonna plug that one in. Some of them will be straight connectors and I'll just have to loop around and plug in straight. Each motherboard will be different, guys, so once again, manual's your friend. And if your motherboard doesn't have USB 3, some things will come with connectors that actually turn your front panel USB 3 ports into USB 2, and then you can just go ahead and plug that adapter into a normal USB 2 port. These are basically your on-off reset switch, your hard drive LED, and your power LED. It'll be different on every motherboard, guys, so make sure you just look at your manual. You might, with your motherboard, get a little block that tells you which little connector to plug into what, and it will just be a little thing that you can just plug in. Makes it a lot easier, but because we're purists here, we're just going to go for the straight connect to motherboard. And if you want to do that as well, just look at your manual. And we'll come through a grommet down the bottom when we're plugging them in. Power and reset doesn't matter with positive and negative, which is your positive and negative power, but the LEDs, the hard drive LED and the power LED do. Now you won't hurt your computer if you plug them in the other way around. The LED will just not come on. With the SATA power, the power just simply plugs into the back of the drives. It's usually pretty easy to plug in your serial ATA power. You just want to go ahead and plug that into the back of your drives, including your optical drive if you have one, and hopefully you won't have to use too many connectors, and that will just plug straight into your modular power supply if you have modular power supply. Otherwise it will just come in a straight connector out of your power supply. Same with the hard drive, guys, just an easy power connector. And guys, when you're plugging these in, just use common sense with the cable. You might just have to work out what works best for your system. That's what they looked at plugged in, guys, and we just got our plugs running from our SSD to our hard drive, and then just straight out the back into the power supply. That's just the SATA data, so that's going to come from the back of our drives and go straight into our motherboard. And your motherboard connectors will usually be labeled just like these ones. Just click them in, guys, like that. A lot of the time we'll have some nice right angle headers, but because of the way our motherboard is mounted onto this with the grommet room, the right angle headers don't really quite work too well on here, but they'll work a lot better on other people's setups, so they can just go straight off that and straight to the grommet, guys. We're just using our straight headers here. Our SATA data cables, they're white. I don't know why MSi would make white headers for a nice black and red board. People who have graphics cards, most decent graphics cards these days, guys, will be dual slot, and this is obviously an aftermarket one by MSi, so it's got that open cooler on it. So make sure you take out your PCIe little expansion covers bays, guys, and make sure they correspond to the correct slot on your board. So starting from the top, you'll have that corresponding to the connector, and the one below it as well. And that will be the same with reference card designs usually, guys, because they'll need room for their blowers on the bottom. Take them out, guys. We'll just take it in, guys, and just push it in firmly, and it will kind of clip in, kind of like RAM, but and they'll have their little connectors there.
Some require you to manually clip it in, others have none at all.
Yeah, some of them, yeah. And then go ahead and, guys, just to secure this graphics card, we want to put those PCI little thumb screws or screws back in. So just go ahead and secure that graphics card. Now we want to hook that up with the power supply, guys, so let's grab our PCIe expansion little power cable. This will be on non-modular power supplies, guys. This will already be coming out, so you just want to route that up around the back and through and power that graphics card there. Our graphics card here, guys, only requires 6-pin power, but some require, a 6 and an 8 pin, which is all good and well. It'll be different depending on what graphics card you have. Make sure you make it look all nice and pretty. You have people with cables running everywhere, that looks crap.
Although it doesn't matter as much if you don't have a window like we do.
Yeah, and obviously, guys, if you don't really care about this sort of stuff, you can just route it straight up. Some people say it restricts it.
Can affect cooling.
Yeah, it can affect cooling, but we want to make ours look pretty. Plus, we got a cable extension, so we just plug that in. Makes a bit more cabling out the back, but we'll find a room for that somewhere. On cable management, basically, you just want to come over here, use some zip ties, clean it up at the back, It's usually one of the more tedious tasks of building your own computer. It's just basically you want to get that back panel on there, guys. So just wrap those cords up. Some cases will come with nice tie down points. This does have a few, not as many as we'd like, but they're really easy to implement for manufacturers, and a lot of cases will have them these days. So just go ahead and use some zip ties or whatever, and just pretty much have at it and just make it look pretty, and just make it so that you can get your back on properly. Now we've just gone ahead and put on the back because we didn't want to show you how hard it was to get out.
Took us a good few minutes.
Yeah, to get that, really push that down, really get it on there. If you've done good cable routing, it wouldn't have been as hard, but we didn't, so it was hard. So go ahead and whack those thumb screws back in. If you don't have them, you'll just have normal screws in which you just screw back in. We don't want you to have to force the back plate on so hard that you've got that it's bulging and you're compressing cables or anything like that, because after a while, guys, the cable might, deteriorate or sever or something like that, and that's really not good. Obviously ours is going to be a bit different. It's got all the red trim and stuff like that, but you get the basics.
Even very basic computers look quite nice if they're very clean.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and we've just swapped this in for my other mate's computer, and we're going to go ahead and boot this up. We've also thrown in some nice lights there, guys, just to make it look pretty. If you want to see how we did that, then just tell us in the comments. So we just go ahead with the boot up. We've got post, so that's good. And guys, because this SSD has already been in operation, that's my SSD. It's already got the Windows 8. Well, I know Windows 8, right? But it's already got the Windows 8 installed on it. So let's go ahead and boot up into Windows. If you want to see us install any operating system of your choice, then just tell us in the comments once again, and we'll show you how to do that we'll show you how to mount a USB and do that way, or we'll show you how to install it. Well, you guys, optical drives, easy. Just throw in whatever operating system you want and just go through the setup. Now make sure, guys, don't be fooled by that annoying thing. Make sure you turn your power switch at the back of the computer on. So if you press the power button, nothing happens. Then if you've done all the steps correctly, it should just be that power button at the back, guys. Don't freak out. Guys, by no means is that a balanced build. I mean, it's got a, but that will get some good gaming done, that machine. I wouldn't go with any aggressive overclocks with just that cooler though, guys. Make sure you subscribe, rate, comment, whatever. Make fun of us. It's all good.
Please don't.
Yeah, don't do that. And we'll come at you with some actual design-specific boards very soon. Thanks.
Bye.